All right, let's jump right in. We're going to try and unpack the work of one of history's most difficult, but also most influential thinkers, G.W.F. Hegel. And he asks this absolutely massive question that gets to the very heart of how we think about the past. I mean, really think about that. Is it all just chaos? A messy collection of battles and accidents and the whims of powerful people? Is it just, as Shakespeare put it, a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury signifying nothing?
Or is there something else going on? Could there be some kind of underlying logic, a hidden direction to the whole sprawling, epic story of humanity? That's the really wild possibility that Hegel wants us to take seriously. And here's his absolutely mind-bending answer. For Hegel, history isn't random in the slightest. It's actually the slow, often brutal, but ultimately rational story of a single, powerful idea unfolding itself through time.
Okay, so to even begin to understand this, we've got to get a handle on three of his key concepts. Think of these as the decoder ring, the tools Hegel gives us to figure out this secret plot of the past.
So the main character in Hegel's epic story is this thing he calls spirit, or in German, Geist. Now, don't think of a ghost floating around. Think of it more like the collective mind of all of humanity. Our shared culture, our ideas, our laws, all of it, learning and growing and evolving through the ages.
And what's the spirit trying to do? What's its ultimate goal? Well, its quest is to become fully aware of its own true nature. And for Hegel, the absolute essential nature of spirit is freedom. So history for him is nothing less than the grand autobiography of freedom itself coming to know itself.
So how does this whole plot actually move forward? It happens through what Hegel famously called the cunning of reason. See, the engine of history is this constant clash of opposites. A thesis meets its antithesis, and that forces a new synthesis. And reason is cunning because it uses the passions of individuals, people like Caesar or Napoleon, as the fuel for this engine. They think they're just chasing their own glory, but they're unconsciously serving reason's much larger purpose.
So let's see how this actually plays out. Act 1 of our story begins in what Hegel calls the great empires of the East. He saw this as the childhood of spirit, where the idea of freedom first appears, but, well, in a very, very limited form.
So in this first massive stage of world history, the concept of freedom does exist, but it's only understood to belong to a single person, the emperor, the despot, the patriarch. Everyone else, well, they only understand who they are through their total submission to this one free individual.
Now, looking at the world from his 19th century perspective, Hegel points to two major examples. On the one hand, you have China, which he saw as this highly organized patriarchal state. The emperor is like the father to all, and individuals have no real independent identity outside of that collective. Then, on the other hand, he looked at India, which he saw as spirit being lost in a kind of chaotic dream state of imagination, where the rigid caste system decides your destiny from birth, completely crushing individual freedom.
Okay, so from childhood, spirit now enters its adolescence. And this happens in the Greek world, where it awakens to a totally new, much more dynamic kind of freedom.
So the idea of freedom takes this huge leap forward. It's not just for one ruler anymore, but, and this is a big but, it's not for everyone yet. Freedom now belongs to some people, the citizens. Of course, slaves, foreigners, women, they were largely excluded from this.
And this was a world of just incredible creativity. You see freedom exploding in beautiful art, in philosophy, and of course, in the birth of democracy. But this freedom was fragile because it was tied directly to your city-state. You were free as an Athenian or as a Spartan. And the beginning of the end, for Hegel, comes with guys like Socrates, who start to introduce this new idea of inner, subjective thought, which begins to question the traditional ways of the city. From the vibrant, beautiful, but localized freedom of Greece, spirit now moves into the next stage, the harsh, disciplined, and universal world of Rome. It's like going from art school to boot camp.
So, Rome comes along and just crushes the specific, cheerful spirit of the individual Greek city-states. It forces everyone to sacrifice their individuality to the abstract power of a single, universal empire and its laws. The beautiful freedom of the citizen is replaced by the harsh discipline of the subject. And this whole process is a really painful one. Spirit feels this loss deeply. The world becomes unhappy, broken-hearted. And yet through all this pain, Rome gives the world an absolutely profound gift, the legal concept of the person, an individual who has abstract rights. But it creates this idea by kind of emptying life of all its color and meaning.
So all that deep unhappiness, that feeling of loss, and the creation of the abstract person in the Roman world, all of it sets the stage perfectly for spirit's final phase, its maturity, the modern world. And here it is. The final revolutionary principle is finally understood. Not that one is free, not that some are free, but that man, as man, is free. Freedom is finally understood to be the essential core nature of every single human being.
So how on earth did we get to this incredible idea? Well, for Hegel, this realization first emerges through Christianity, which reveals that true freedom isn't something external, it's an inner quality of the soul. Then, he argues, this idea gets fully activated by the Protestant Reformation, which internalizes faith and gets rid of external authorities. And this new, powerful inner freedom then looks at the world and wants to build a rational, just society, the modern state, that actually reflects its own principles. And so the quest is complete. Spirit has gone on this epic journey, from being unconsciously unified in the East, through the painful separation and abstraction of Greece and Rome, to finally arriving at a self-conscious, rational freedom where a person's inner life and the outer world are in harmony.
This table really lays out the whole journey perfectly. You can see Spirit's evolution right here. From its childhood in the East, where only one is free, to its wild teenage years in Greece, where some are free, through that harsh discipline of Rome, which creates the abstract person, and then finally to its adulthood in the modern world, where we finally grasp that all are free.
And this is so important to get. For Hegel, this was not just some abstract philosophical game. He believed this logical progression was the actual story of how our modern world, with its focus on individual rights and rational government, really came to be. And that, of course, leaves us with one last, really provocative question. Hegel seemed to think this whole process was culminating in the rational state of his own time. But, looking at our world today, can we really say the journey of freedom is complete? Has history, in Hegel's sense, actually come to an end?